Um, well, I'm pretty happy that the governor recognized that we gave him a very sound, fair budget. That's what he said today. He said in the past he's gotten 95% of what he asked for in the budget. We think the budget we gave him is sound, healthy, fair, deals with a lot of issues of importance, extraordinary expansion of extraordinary special ed, recognizing that the legislature put in additional money for transit because transit's in trouble, for the DSPs and the people that work with the disabled, that he recognized that they missed that and they accepted those revenues. We appreciate that. All in all, it's what we've said all along, that we've given the governor a budget that we think is sound and fair. And when I hear the governor, except one other thing, the attacks on Camden is disappointing. The healthcare expansion is to help people that are underserved, but not unexpected. It's been punitive, and we see how he goes with this stuff. But long and all, look at the total budget. We did well. We did well. And when the governor says, whose side are we on? Whose side are you on? I'm on the side of all 9 million people in this state, not just some. Not when the governor talks about the middle class being public employees, and by the way they are, what about the hotel workers? What about the store clerks? What about the iron workers and the carpenters? Aren't they middle class too? Is the governor not going to be satisfied until we have the highest tax burden in the nation? Right now, we're the 5th. I heard the governor said he's open to talking about property taxes. Since when? I've made offers, want to talk about property taxes. Oh, by the way, I don't own the market on ideas on property tax cuts. But unfortunately, the governor doesn't talk about property taxes at all because he has no idea how to address them. We need to address them. We need to find ways to make New Jersey more affordable, not more expensive. And the millionaire's tax is one tax. It's not going to solve the it's not going to solve the problem. I saw, Gordon McGinnis said after this, it's the sales tax goes up. After that, bring back the estate tax. And what other tax? We're facing a $3 or $4 billion deficit by 2023. And unfortunately, if we don't deal with that, we're going to be cutting programs, not expanding programs. Recognize this budget does well for one reason. We expanded the corporate business tax. By the way, they are on billion-dollar corporations, big, large corporations. So at the end of the day, we gave him a very solid budget. I'm glad he recognized that. He absolutely vetoed very little. Freezing, I'll stand with our numbers any day of the week. He wants to freeze it and put it in a lockbox, that's fine. Because we were right last year and we're right this year. And as far as the rainy day fund, if you read the language, it's surplus. You're calling it a rainy day fund, but it's nothing but surplus. You can spend it for whatever you want, however you want, wherever you want. So, look, we gave him a good budget. We're glad he recognized it. We're glad he signed it. I don't know why we had to wait till Sunday at 2 o'clock for that, since we gave it to him in June 20th. But at the end of the day, we gave him a very good budget, but I'm happy to take questions. Yeah.
So you disagree with because I think he was saying that the legislature's budget, on the rainy day fund stuff. You should explain.
Well, what I'm saying is if you look at the language, it's basically surplus. He's calling it a rainy day fund, but it's surplus. If you look at the language that's in the budget, it's surplus. So no, listen, and obviously our budget performed better, previous budget performed better than expected, and the revenues were even higher, which, oh, by the way, we were dead on last year with our projections, and we're going to be dead on this year, and this will be 2 years in a row where his projections will be off.
Just to be clear, you're not going to challenge their impounding of up to $235 million in appropriations.
Listen.
You're not going to challenge any of the line item either.
Well, listen, I'm not going to challenge if he says, if his word is good, and as revenues come in, those programs will be released. I'm okay with that. Because we know what we did last year, John. Again, you can talk all you want, but we have history on our side. And we're going to have history on our side this year too, once all the smoke settles. So there's no need to challenge it. The $38 million, he took $38 million out of shared services. Okay, I get it. And took $5 million away from poor people in Camden that need health care. That's targeted. We know what that's about. The money in East Orange, well, that was taken care of in a supplemental to keep East Orange Hospital open. So, you know, for somebody that said we gave him a bad budget, he pretty much accepted almost everything we gave him.
Senator, under what circumstances are you prepared to accept the idea of a millionaire's?
When the governor starts to deal with real finances of the state, David. You know, I've said, what it means is we got to fix the pension plan. We need to fix the health care plan. It's not an attack on the middle-class workforce. The middle-class workforce in the state of New Jersey, if you ask the peoples, if you ask the store clerks, they don't have a $27,000 health care plan. That's for the public employees. The teachers are $38,000. If we're going to talk about all 9 million people in this state, let's have a global discussion. I know whose side I'm on. I want to lower property taxes. I want to make things more fair to people, not just raise taxes. Look, we're the 5th highest tax burden state in the nation. And the governor's plan, he has no plan to reduce costs unless he's provided to you somewhere secretly. We haven't seen anything on how we're going to deal with cost. All we're doing is spend side. So it doesn't work. We gave him a budget. You know, our numbers worked. So when he's ready to deal with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is a pension fund, he quotes Governor Florio. When Governor Florio was in office 27 years ago, we had a AAA bond rating, and our pension was fully funded. In 2005, then Phil Murphy wrote a report to Governor Dick Cody saying we need to fix the pension and health care. You know, he wrote the report. And he says, well, I wrote the report, so I know what I'm doing. I know what can be, how to get it done. Well, let's get it done. It's late. Time's running out.
This is the second, if not the third, press event where you've kind of thrown back the whose side are you on. Is that getting under your skin?
Not at all. But I think people have to understand, if he's saying that that group that he was in is the middle class, that is just public employees and teachers, I got to tell you, there's a lot of people in the middle class that are struggling to make ends meet, are struggling to pay their property taxes, and we together can fix this. But him separating, you know, and I'm not talking about millionaires, I'm talking about the middle class, separating the middle class like we're different classes. Now, that's wrong. It's wrong.
Senator, on the tone up to this point,
Yeah.
a few days ago, New Direction, New Jersey, got that email, they said this budget screws working people.
Yeah.
Just in his speech now, it was pretty abrasive towards the legislature, and then he even quoted, he was quoting you.
Yes, he
For
did.
your support for the millionaire's tax in the past. What do you make of the tone up to this point?
Hey, listen, I've said this before. This actually reminds me of Donald Trump in some ways. He declares victory after he doesn't get his way. And that's a little bit what happened today. And, you know, listen, we can work together. There is a broad, long list of accomplishments that we did together, including the ACA bill that we just did. You know, Matt, that was important. But it was important to get it right, not just to do it half-assed. And we did it right, and I was thrilled we could work that out with him. So again, we want to continue to work together, but the legislature, New Jersey is a moderate state, period. It is not a liberal state. It's not. And if you look at the legislative districts, you'll see where there's a lot of Democrats in districts that Republicans ran for years. We're a moderate state, and I'm sorry, we're going to continue this fight for the residents that we represent.
Senator, the governor's argument, or at least part of it, is that the middle class that you're talking about, the hotel workers, the store clerks, they are the ones that are bearing the burden to support the budget. So why not broaden it out and make the higher income earners 2 cents for every dollar they earn on the money? Which one? How do you explain that to the hotel workers?
Because it doesn't fix anything. In fact, when he offered $125 1-year shot, $125 per person 1-year shot for millionaire's tax. You only can spend the millionaire's tax so many times. And oh, by the way, I can argue that number, what he certified the millionaire's tax at, because of last year. At best, it's probably $360 million. They come in they start at 447, then 500. You know, it keeps growing to make the number, the narrative work the way he wants to. Listen, I've never said we can't raise taxes, but without corrections, without fixing things, without reforming government, And just raising taxes means, what happens next year? Did anybody ask him, what taxes are you targeting next year? Because by the way, besides the millionaire's tax, with the CBT going down 1%, he's going to have to target something. You know what that's going to be next? It's a sales tax. Well, it's a gimmick. Well, I think $660 million in people's pockets instead of the government's pockets is not a gimmick. It's real, whether it's recognizable or not, however they want to say it. Yeah, yes,
How much,
sorry.
how much communication was there in the last few days? Did you
Zero.
talk directly? No.
Zero. Listen, when we passed the budget on the 20th, we really anticipated from doing this a few times. Normally, after you pass a budget, you sit down and have a conversation about what's important, what can we put back in, what can we take out. It's called a negotiation. He didn't want to negotiate. That's all right. He has a right to do that. You know, he said he gave us his budget, and that's what he wanted. Well, that's what he told us last year when we did a budget. He says, I don't know why I have to negotiate anything. I have my budget. I know my budget. I like my budget. Just pass my budget. Well, again, this isn't Goldman Sachs. We're going to work with him, deal with priorities that we think that are important, and at the end of the day, come up with a budget that's good for the taxpayers of New Jersey. Not raising taxes is not a bad thing. It really isn't for a state that's recognized as one of the worst tax states in the country.
But
Okay?
Senator, it sounds like you've got a budget
Yeah.
that you're satisfied with, the governor's satisfied with, so what would those negotiations have changed?
Well, you could have easily, listen, he keeps talking about county colleges. You know what I mean? Could we have adjusted that, or for other things? Of course. You know, you don't know until you have that conversation. You know what I mean? It really, you don't know until you have a sit down and you say, well, hey, listen, I'd like to have this back, or what about, you know, really, that's a negotiation.
Quick,
Yeah.
you were asked for a meeting? Or is it-
Michael, we sent him the budget. Michael, we sent him the budget. You know, at that point, we told the governor what we thought, what we believed. We had something in black and white. We gave him a budget. When you don't agree, you come back and you tell us, listen, the speaker and I were both available. That's why we sent the budget 10 days in advance.
Michael asked if some of the stuff that he line itemed out was political in nature, and the governor said it wasn't, and he promised it wasn't. Do you think the governor's lying?
Super pinky swear? Come on, listen. You know, the governor talked about whose side he's on. I'll bring that up again. I'm on the side of poor people that need health care. It's unfortunate that he took that away from the people of Camden.
You guys are still disagreeing about revenues, and you have, say, histories on your side. Is it, again, time to revisit how, and whether the governor should have the power to certify the revenues?
Listen, I passed it last year. I was ready. The Assembly hasn't, you know, it's up to the Assembly at this point. We passed it. I think, look, in 1947, there was no Office of Legislative Services, there was no staff for legislatures, and so, you know, giving the governor sole authority to certified revenues made sense. It's 2019. It really doesn't any longer. You know, in fact, they had promised some legislators that they were going to do that revenue forecasting board, but then went back on their word of doing that legislation. I know there was a promise on that.
Is that a conversation you want to have with the speaker again?
Well, listen, I got to talk to the speaker after this. Again, I think that, you know, the governor signing this budget validates what we've been saying all along, that we gave him a good budget. We gave him a very good budget. And he recognizes, as we did, we needed more money for transit. That's why we put more money into it. We put more money into extraordinary special ed because it was the right thing to do. We put money in for DSPs and other people that work with the disabled, as he said today. They were the legislative ads. You know what I mean? You know, so again, we're very appreciative that the governor recognized the things that we find important. Again, the governor recognized, we gave him a budget that was as solid as could be. Mike?
On the appropriations that are going into reserve, it seems like those might be there for a while. I mean, one of the ways that they described it as, once they know that the surplus exceeds 1.276 billion, then they would release it, which we won't know for a while. So
Well,
do you have
that-
concerns about the time of that, and that we have no idea what's going into that?
Well, listen, obviously, I'd like to know what's going into it, but I'm not concerned for one reason. We're pretty confident with our numbers. We went through this with the Christie administration where they froze things, and then, you know, as revenues came in, they started releasing them. So we would hope that he'll at least keep his word. because the surplus he has is larger than what was anticipated. Yes?
Just talk about what your relationship's gonna be like going forward, because, you have to work on some other stuff, so, I mean, how's that gonna happen?
Hey, listen, we get things done. You know, listen, if I let my feelings get hurt every time, you know, they say something that would upset me, I couldn't do this job. And I'm sure it's the same with the speaker and the governor. We'll work together. We did, I'm telling you, we just did it with the ACA. You know, we saw a major flaw in the ACA bill that they were doing. And we didn't want poor people being put in two different government boxes. We wanted a single entrance. And actually, he actually quoted saying we share our views. Regardless who pointed it out, we shared the same view. So we fixed it. So I expect we'll continue to. Yes?
So are you worried about CWA, NJDA, or any of the other governor's allies challenging your members in 21?
Listen, they've been doing that to me since I've been here. I'm not a little bit worried because they haven't been successful yet with me. Hey, listen, realize something. There are a lot of people in this state that work very hard. Again, the clerk in the grocery store. A person works real hard and struggles to make their property tax bill. And by the way, doesn't have a $38,000 health care plan or a $27,000 health care plan. Oh, but by the way, they're union too. And they would like to have better health care plans. But they recognize what happens when you get too far out of whack. So I think I heard that today. I think that's what I heard the governor said. But again, this is not a progressive state. It is a moderate state. Yes?
Senator, in your mind, have the public sector unions played a positive role in the budget process this year, last year?
You're kidding, right?
No?
I don't think so. I know Hetty Rosenstein was urging a shutdown. I can show you the flyers. Urging shutdown of the state government with pictures of me, you know, New Jersey closed, blame this guy and everything else. Right? What was that proving? I think that's why we waited till Sunday at 2 o'clock to sign the budget. You know? Again, at some point you got to be the boss. You know, I mean, because if the workers are running the place, then we don't have any control. And we don't have the checks and balances. Yes?
You gonna grow the stubble out now?
No. It's Sunday, man. I hate shaving.
You said a couple of times if the governor keeps his word. What's your level of trust for Philadelphia right now?
Listen, I have to see his actions. You know, honestly, I have to see his actions. The things he says and the things he does sometimes don't match up. And, oh, by the way, he missed one with me on the millionaire's tax. When I got elected in 2017, I tweeted out the first thing I'm going to do is a millionaire's tax. So I'm sorry, he has to get better research because I said that too. And I meant it. And I was going to do it. And to the salt, I will absolutely challenge him on that salt stuff, that it doesn't have an impact to this state. It absolutely has an impact to this state. There are people paying taxes now to the federal government where they weren't because they don't have write-offs. So, you know, again, the governor, you know, hopefully what I'm hoping for is now that this budget's done, if there's something that you want to get done, if there's something you really want, it's called give and take. It's called give and take. I really want to fix the pension and health care of the state. I really want to fix it. And I've been at this for years. And, you know, back in 2011 and 10, if we hadn't made the changes to the pension system, we went bankrupt. It would have been bankrupt in 17. But, you know, we have fought to fund the pension. It's up to $3.8 billion now. I am proud we're doing things to save the pensions of the workers. Every worker should be kept their promise. Every single worker that's made a promise, it should be kept. But telling me I can't change for the new so that we can continue the process and maybe the store clerk's property taxes don't have to go up so far that they have to leave. We're at that point right now. We have to fix New Jersey. And it's compromise. You want something, we want something. He talked about he's willing to listen to anybody who has any ideas on you know, doing something about property taxes. That is absolutely false because I've offered and he refuses to even acknowledge. Yes?
What's your game plan on those that have
Well, we're not going away on it. You know what I mean? Well, listen, I'll be out in the summer working on it. You know, I'll be out in the summer working on it. I didn't want them up in the budget year this year anyway. I mean, if it was going on a ballot, I didn't want it on this year's ballot anyway. So, you know, we passed a few bills. The administration actually said they support some. They've been telling me that for 6 months. Eventually, I guess they'll show me which ones they support. I got to talk to the Assembly Speaker also. But all in all, Sam, this was actually a good day for us. We have a very good budget. We did a good job. And in recognition of that is the governor signed it with very little line item veto.
When you're putting a budget together, how do you think, or and how much do you think about scaring businesses from coming here, retaining businesses, and keeping retirees from leaving the state?
Well, first, you can't keep retirees from leaving the state because even the public sector workers you're hearing from say 30% of them leave New Jersey every year because they say it's too expensive. When the governor talks about the incentives aren't as effective as they should be, he's right. He's 100% right. And Governor Kane probably hit it dead on the head. He said these payments are like extortion payments because New Jersey is so unattractive for businesses. You have to pay larger than normal incentives to get people to do business here. We have the 5th highest tax burden in the nation. Now, when you talk about what's fair as far as a millionaire's tax, we did a millionaire's tax under Jim McGreevey, 8.97%. Massachusetts is 5%, Connecticut's 6.99%. Tax in Pennsylvania is 3.07%. We're going to be more expensive. We get too high up, people will be going back to New York City because it's going to be cheaper to be in New York than it is going to be in North Jersey. Because if we keep, I'm telling you, Governor Cuomo can't wait to see us doing millionaire's tax, because you'll see the commercials come to New York.
You mentioned tax incentives, or I guess now that program, so what's going to happen now?
Again, we are more than willing to have a conversation with them on tax incentives. I've said this all along, Mike. If you're in charge of the program for 18 months, you slowed it down because we know they slowed down the incentives, the process and everything else, which is fine. You have the chair, the executive director, and you have veto authority over the minutes. I guess he doesn't trust himself because he has complete control of that incentive program. So what damage can be done? My question would be, what damage could possibly be done if you have full control of the incentive programs? Are you telling me you don't have confidence in your staff to ensure that the checks and balances aren't done? It's a soundbite. It's a nice political soundbite. He's got complete control over the EDA.
But you seem to be at, even with caps, we don't seem to want the caps.
Well, right now, we don't have anything. But
That's
Daniel,
bad.
but what we're saying is, for a purpose of negotiation, give us the time to finish it out. You're in total control. He is 1,000% in control. I don't care about the constitutionality of anything else. You stretch it out, you slow it down, you can do whatever you want. They've done that already. So at the end of the day, why wouldn't he just extend it? Because he's made it so political, he made it impossible for him to extend it. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Senator.